Hi, my name is Kyle Houchins. I'm a tech and a trainer from McNeil, and I wanted to talk to you about an exciting new development in version 7, which is support for sbsar files directly from Substance. Substance, if you're not aware, is Adobe's suite for material creation. It's made up of several different suites. There's Alchemy, there's Painter, there's Designer, and Substance Source. We're going to talk about Source and Alchemy today, and I've already done a video on Painter, if you want to take a peek at that. That's also on our YouTube page. But today I want to talk about specifically Alchemy and Source. So let's talk about how to get Substance support for Rhino using Package Manager. So we're going to launch Package Manager, which is a plugin browser. We're going to go ahead and go to the search bar here, and we're going to search for Substance. And we're going to find the Substance importer. We're going to go ahead and install it and then say OK. I've already got mine installed, so I'm going to skip that step, but that's how you would get it up and running. Once it's up and running, I believe Rhino is going to ask you for a restart, so go ahead and do that. And once you've done that, you're all set and ready to go. And what that does is that gives your material browser some superpowers under the import from material library setting here. So let's take a look at Alchemy. If we bring Alchemy up, then you can see that it comes with tons of basic presets that you can mess with. But in this case, I've got this floor material loaded, and we can roll around and see what it looks like in different lighting. If we click on it over here in the layer manager, it brings up all the different parameters that you can mess with. And in this case, we can change how bright and shiny the metal is. We can change whether the metal is brass or copper or silver. We can change the marble roughness, whether it's super shiny or whether it's super matte. And this is all basically, procedural stuff that you can mess with. Once you get it the way that you like it, you basically come over here and click on it, go to the Export Manager, export the current view, and you want to make sure that you have set this to be Substance Archive sbsar. That's the file format that we're going to be working with. It automatically populates which textures and channels are going to go out with this export. And in this case, I've got it sent to my desktop. So I'm just going to go ahead and export. Little progress bar over here. Once it's done, I'm going to go ahead and just minimize Alchemy, go into Rhino, and say Import from Material Library. I'm going to find it on my desktop. Open it up. And in this case, you'll see under the presets, there was only one version of this, so there is no drop down up here, but there is a drop down here to pick how big the texture size I want. In this case, the default is 2K. If I'm doing something that it's going to be viewed from a distance, or it's going to be a small part of my object or my scene, I may go 512 or 1024. If it's going to be something that's going to be really up close to the camera, you may want to go 4K. But in this case, I'm going to go 2K, which seems to be a nice balance between quality and speed. Rhino's going to go ahead and load that up. Once it's loaded, just like any other Rhino material, you just drag and drop it onto your object, and you can see that you have it in the scene just like it was in Substance. Now, the one thing I'm going to point out, Substance always brings in, well, I shouldn't say always, but most of the time it brings in a displacement map. In this case, what I'm probably going to do is shut the displacement map off. If I need something displaced, or I need to show some surface detail, I'll probably try to get that out of my bump map. If I need displacement, and in this case I really don't, I can get pretty much anything I need out of this using the bump map. I would go over here to the object properties, and I would adjust the custom render mesh. And I'm going to do this on the next one so that I can show you what the effect of that is, but on this one it's not really necessary. So let's go ahead and just set the displacement map setting to 0 and go ahead and roll with this as it sits. Now, you may notice that the mapping on this is a little too big, and typically the way that you would do that is go ahead and click down here and change the repeats of the images, but that's kind of a hassle because you would have to actually go and change the repeats for all of these. And the faster way to do that is to make sure that your Textures tab is loaded. You just right click down here and make sure that Textures tab is loaded. Click on that, and then shift click all of the associated textures with that particular material, which then allows you to adjust the repeats globally. So I can take this to 10. It's going to go ahead and update all of them at the same time. and give me back, you know, the higher repeat number. And in this case, that's probably too high, so let's just go with something like 4. That's probably a little better. And then we can just go ahead and ray trace it and see what it looks like. These materials tend to render really beautifully in Rhino, so you can see that it looks pretty great. Okay, so let's take a look at a different one. I'm going to go back to rendered mode. And let's look at source, which is Adobe's material browser. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that up. And it's an online material library. It's got tons of stuff in it. This is kind of a fun one. And you can see that there's several different versions of it. There's the green one, there's the red one, there's the black one, there's the riveted one, stuff like that. So let's go ahead and download this. I'm going to download it from here. It's going to give a little progress browser up here, and it says it's downloaded successfully. I can go ahead and open the folder where it lives, which is here. And this is the locomotive steam engine shield, sbsar, and it's in my downloads folder. So I'm going to go back to Rhino's material library, click on this and say import from material library. Go to my downloads, grab that one and import it. Now you can see that there's several different versions of this, right? And the one that I wanted was there's the steam engine shield, there's the 3 different versions of this thing, right? So it's probably the first one that I want, and they're all kind of named the same, so I just have to double check. But let's go ahead and go with the painted metal plate and say okay. Again, I can set the texture size, but in this case I'm going to leave it at 2048. So I'm going to say okay. Rhino's going to think about it for a second. Load it up in Rhino. And it looks like the first was the red one. I actually wanted the green one, so let's do it again. And let's go with the large metal plate. I think that's the right one. If not, we'll load the third one. We'll get it one way or the other. Yeah, it looks like it was the third one. So anyway, you can see that you can get more than one material out of the same download. So out of those two, I'll use the red one. Let's go ahead and roll this over here and assign it, and you can see that it applies quite nicely. Now, this has a lot of displacement on it. You can see if I pick the original object, you can see how far it's displaced. And in this case, it may actually work to our advantage. The problem is we might not have enough render mesh in order to be able to support this. So if I click on the object and I go over here to my object itself, the object properties, I can turn custom render mesh on or off, and then I can adjust how much render mesh I have in this object. In this case, it looks like I had already had it set as a custom render mesh with a maximum edge length of 0.08. I can drop that a little bit. And as I drop this render mesh, it's going to increase the amount of polygons in that render mesh, but it's also going to increase the quality of the displacement. You can see that it gets a little nicer in there. Now, if you don't need the displacement, I would suggest turning it off, and then we can take this again like the first one, and we can just take it to 0. And it gets rid of the displacement. It's still going to look good, but it loses a little bit of that depth, and we may want to boost the bump map a little bit, which is going to give us the effect of displacement without actually displacing it. You can see as I roll around the rivets, those are actually flat, versus when they were displaced, they actually stuck out. And if I take this and turn it up to 0.3, which it was before, you can see that the mesh actually moves itself. But when it does that, it actually comes off the surface of the object. And so if that is important to you, if you've got it in relation to other objects around in your scene, you may again want to run with displacement off and try and get what you can get out of bump mapping. Okay, because that keeps your surface right where it started. All right, so I hope that gives you a little overview of a really cool new feature in 7. As this develops, we're going to add more features to it. Right now, one of the things that's on our wish list is to be able to have a material selected in Rhino that we brought in from Alchemy, have Alchemy open on the side, be able to make adjustments to it, resave the material, and then have it those saved changes repropagate back into Rhino. It doesn't do that currently. What you would have to do actually is make an adjustment to the material, save it, and then re-import it and reapply it. But that's something that we're definitely working on going forward. We just aren't there quite yet. So I hope that gives you a quick peek into a cool feature. I hope that the substance stuff becomes useful. It opens up a whole new world of texturing and materials. And with the new rendering tools in version 7, it seems to be a really powerful combination to be able to get some really awesome new looks and artwork in Rhino. So I hope you're as excited about this new feature as I am. I hope that you take it and run with it. And I'm looking forward to seeing the cool stuff that you'll make with it coming up here shortly. So my name's Kyle Houchins. This is using substance materials in Rhino 7. Go make great stuff. Thanks. Bye.